Live from the SEP Video Studio in Northwest Florida, it's Late Night Talk with Jamie Settle.
And welcome. It is Late Night Talk, special edition, Pensacon Edition. And so the weekend with Pensacon is finished for another year. And so just wanted to share with you everything that I did this weekend and show you some of the fun that's happened and some videos that I collected. And so we'll get into autographs that I collected and some memorabilia as well. I didn't get to everyone that I told you I would get to. Just wasn't enough time, wasn't enough money, but I think I successfully did Pensacon this year, and I'm pleased with it. So I think that's the main thing, and so just wanted to share with you. So, of course, this is from Friday night. Go ahead and show the video here. Just showing you the area here with the Pensacola Bay Center. And then the trolley coming up. And what was fun about this was that the trolleys had different starship names to them. Like this one was the USS Defiant. And then they had other Star Trek names as well that they had USS Voyager, USS Enterprise, USS Discovery. Hey, Heather, thanks for joining. And so then here we've got just a little bit of the ride. Switch over here in the trolley. If I can switch. There we go. So I don't know what the red flashing light was for. Probably, Star Trek, whenever the ship's in trouble or if there's trouble afoot, they call on red alert. So maybe it was red alert. But of course, the trolleys would stop at various locations like the Rex Theater, the Pensacola Cultural Center, also known as the Pensacola Little Theater, several other places included. And so, yeah, that's me riding. And then this is Court of DeLuna. This is one of the other stops that we made. And then, let's see here. I think this... Yeah, okay, so this is when I got to meet Alex Winter. He played Bill from Bill and Ted. And so he's telling a little bit about that.
It was kind of a crazy endeavor, but we finished.
We
survived it.
Was the family involved?
I think he's talking about George
really.
Carlin here.
I got, thank you so much. I got permission from his wife, who's now passed, Gail, who was the rights holder. But we sort of went off and made our
Hey, Nick.
So it
Good
was,
evening.
Really important to us that we just tell a story that had its own perspective and wasn't sort of kind of more of an advertisement for the Zappa brand,
Well, talking about cool rock stars, you made a little movie that had quite a few cool rock stars in it.
Yeah.
In fact, a few years ago at Pensacon, Jane Whelan was here.
Oh, great! Wow, that's cool.
We got to talk about Bill and Ted, the movie, and Dan Shore stopped by too.
Oh, amazing!
So we had Billy the Kid,
Yep.
Joan of Arc, and now we've got Bill S. Preston Esquire.
Yeah, though Jane has since been in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which
Hall
is
of
pretty
Fame.
incredible.
So you had two Hall of Famers in that movie. You had Clarence up there too.
We did, yeah. He was amazing. Yeah, sorry that he's gone. Jane I talked to still fairly regularly. But yeah, it's a bummer about Clarence.
Yeah, and was it Martha Davis?
Yep. Fee Waybill.
Fee Waybill.
From the Tubes. Yeah. And I was like a young punk rocker, so that was really, I mean, I don't think anyone else there knew who Fee was.
Alex Winter.
And I was probably more starstruck by Fee Waybill than I was by anybody else, because they were huge. I was a kind of a New York City kid, and they were really huge in the music scene at that time.
It was, White Punks
And Martha
on
Davis
Dope.
was from the Motels, of course. So
White Punks on Dope.
that was it. That was the song. Yeah, huge.
Well, you worked in that movie with my idol, and that was George Carlin.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to ask the fanboy question. What was George like on set, and how was it working with him?
Well, George was really great. He was, we were really young. Keanu and I had been in the business for a while, so it wasn't like we were, say, starstruck. I mean, we were starstruck by George, so I think that was kind of the thing. We weren't starstruck generally by people. And finding Rufus took a really long time. The movie was pretty low budget, and it was independent, and they were floating all these names around for who was going to be Rufus, and it got scarier and scarier the further into the shoot we got, because the stakes were getting higher, and the ability to back out if Rufus was terrible was getting harder. And some pretty horrendous names were being thrown around. So we were kind of blown away that he did it. He had only acted in one other thing by then. That was also produced by Scott Kroof, who produced Bill and Ted, which is how we got to George. So he wasn't an actor, but he was, anyone growing up in the 70s in the U.S., he was a titan, right? He was like this cultural titan. So it was kind of like God was coming to our set to be in our weird little movie. And, I remember he came to visit our set. We were on the Old West set and outside Phoenix, and there was George Carlin, in our movie. We almost felt apologetic. We were like, sorry. Sorry that they got you to be in this weird movie, George. But he was lovely. He was really gracious, very, very humble, kind of eager, curious mind, and he wanted to soak up what acting was. We were like, well, just don't watch us. But honestly, he was very, very curious, and really his mind was really, just like, I want to learn. I want to do more acting. I want to see how this works, and that was kind of how he went at it.
He said there were some strange.
All right, so that is a little bit of Alex Winter, who played Bill S. Preston, Esquire, on Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures, and the 2 sequels after that. And let's see, this was amazing here. It's video. Chewy. He was on stilts, so he was very, very tall. Play that back again. It's video. That was that was an awesome costume right there. So yeah. Okay, this one-man crew here, so I'm switching and doing all kinds of things at the same time. So it's not going to be perfect, but yet. We do our best. Let's see. And then one of the trolley rides, it was fun because they had 2 teenagers here that were playing Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock. And so they were being our tour guides, basically. Had everyone in stitches. So that was fun as well. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. Sorry about that. I've only had like an hour to prep this stuff, so forgive me about that. So here is Friday night was also gallery night in downtown Pensacola. So all the gallery night things were happening as well. So there you go. And then let's see here. Just going through some pictures here. And then, let's see, I think we've got George Takei here. So, the room was packed. This was the DeLuna event space. I think I'm going to come back to this video at the very end.
The last one of the original cast of Star Trek who has not been to
Because George
Pensacon has arrived.
Takei has a really good story to tell. And it's not Star Trek. So here he is making his way.
I think they've got a surprise plan for you. So 3, 2, 1.
Oh my!
George Takei.
Oh my!
So his signature phrase there.
You've got a surprise for me. I said off mic right here. Oh my!
So yeah. Oh my. All right. And I posted some of the convention vendor on the vendor floor. And so I won't go through that. Let's see here. Going through pictures here. I'll go through the pictures in a little bit. Oh, this, yeah. This is Rob Paulson here. I'm about to play it. Let me bring the audio up to get ready. And so here is Rob Paulson. He played Raphael on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the classic cartoon back in the 80s, early 90s, as well as he played Pinky from Pinky and the Brain and the Animaniacs. So here was a little video that he did for me, which I thought was really fun.
Hey, friends of Jamie, you know who this is? Yeah, you're thinking it's just some old guy from Michigan. No, it's not. This is Raphael. That's the original Raphael from the old school Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, not to be confused with Nolan North, the more talented version of me. But I'm Raphael, and I'm a personal friend of Jamie's. And I also happen to be Pinky. You want me to prove it? Okay. Nerf. See, I'm the only one in the world who can do that. Jamie and I are going to take over the world. I told the Brain he is off the show because Jamie is younger, more handsome, and has way more money. So, we're off on our way to start and take over the world here in Pensacon. And, oh, one more thing. Goodbye! Nerf!
All right, so that was Rob Paulson there. Let's see. All right, so that's pretty much all the videos there. I'll save the best for last, but we'll go through some pictures here right now. Let's see.
Hang on, it's something.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Sorry about that, but let's go ahead and bring up the images. So here's the first one. This is Renee Jacobs. She played April O'Neil from the classic cartoon Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and she also signed 2 of my April figures that I've had. And then I just read what Heather just posted here, and so Heather, you asked if I got caught in the crowds. They said there were so many people there on Saturday. There actually was a lot of always on Saturday there's a crowd, but there was a lot of people that got in late, or I'm not sure, I don't remember the situation, but there was allegedly a lot of people did not get in to see the vendor floor or the celebrities in time. there was just a large amount of crowd there. And so Pensacon had put out an official statement saying if you were there on Saturday and there was trouble or whatnot, come back on, if you only had like a Saturday pass, that is, come back on Sunday for free admission. So they were hoping that would make amends for the trouble that they had. Of course, I always know not to go into the Bay Center on Saturday, right up front, when they open. Plus, I don't want to stand in lines, that type of thing. So I try to find like a question-answer session, panel, whatever, that is not in the Bay Center. I don't think any of the panels happen in the Bay Center. They all happen elsewhere in the other venues. So I had the two question-answer panels that I went to. The first one was with Richard Dreyfuss on Saturday morning, and then George Takei, which you just saw. I didn't get any of the Richard Dreyfuss one because I was way in the back of the building, and I knew that my phone would not zoom in that far. So, but yeah. So it was busy, and I think today, as a result of what happened yesterday, it was a little bit more busy than what it normally is. And so there was a lot of people catching up, I guess, to be able to get their celebrity pictures in today and whatever else that they didn't get to do yesterday for those that only had the Saturday pass. And so it was a little bit more crowded today. So yeah. So we'll go to the next image, and this is, of course, Alex Winter, and it was just fun meeting him. As a kid, I just loved Bill and Ted. Watched the movie hundreds of times, and so it was nice to be able to meet Bill. Or Alex. So hoping that one of these days Kiana will visit Pensacola and have the opportunity to meet him too. So the next one, we've got Ernie Reyes. He played Keno in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, in the 90s. And so he was a lot younger than just the kid back then. And so got him. And then we have Richard Dreyfuss. I did not realize how taller I was than Richard. And so it was nice to get to meet him. He, of course, played Hooper in Jaws, and also Dr. Leo Marvin in What About Bob. And of course, I think What About Bob is my favorite movie that he's in. He played in a whole bunch of other movies too. He's a seasoned actor and very good at what he does. Then we have Kim Rhodes. She played Sheriff Jody Mills on Supernatural. And so I've watched all of Supernatural. That's a great show. Have to have a stomach for it, for some of those scenes. But enjoy it very much. And then we have Samantha Smith, who played Mary Winchester on Supernatural as well. And so both those ladies were great, and great to meet. I got their autographs as well. Then, of course, I got a picture with Amy Jo Johnson, who played Kimberly, the Pink Ranger in the Power Rangers. And so I also got her autograph, as you see there, me holding the autograph. And so I just wish that the pandemic was over with so that nobody had to wear masks anymore. Hopefully she'll come back to Pensacon, and hopefully I can get another picture with her mask off. So that's one dreaded part of the pandemic. But I understand. You gotta be safe. Then, of course, the famous George Takei, who played Sulu on the original Star Trek and in the Star Trek movies as well. And he got promoted to Captain Sulu in some of the movies. Then we have Scott Innes. He voiced Scooby-Doo, Shaggy, and Scrappy-Doo for a lot of the newer Scooby-Doo movies, including Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, which was released my high school graduating year, 1999. And so it was great. I've got a great video that I want to show you. It'll be at the end. And then we'll show George Takei. His story that he told at the question and answer panel. And so yeah. So I'm going to just show you a couple of the things that I got autographed here. Going to switch over to camera 2. George Takei actually wrote a book. It's actually a comic book. They called Us Enemy. Expanded edition, and this is actually the story that he tells in the panel. And so he wrote to Jamie, reach for the star, the highest star, George Takei. And then he wrote February 19th, 2022, 80th Day of Remembrance, and this is about the book. And so here's what it kind of looks like there. So we got that. Then we have I had also met David Yost, the Blue Power Ranger. I got his picture a couple of years back too. So he signed this for me, one of the pop figures. Then we have, this is actually a figure back from 1994. He signed that as well, the same guy. Then, of course, the 2 April figures. Renee signed these to Jamie, Cowabunga Dude. And then she signed her name and her character name. And then we have another one. Both of these are different figures, by the way, different variety. To Jamie, Turtle Power. So I'm glad that I've got those. This is a signature of Samantha Smith from Supernatural. And then from Amy Jo Johnson, the Pink Power Ranger. And then Richard Dreyfuss. Had to pick a What About Bob photo. They have different photos on the table from their different movies. So if you don't bring something, they have plenty of pictures for them to sign. And this is Kim Rhodes from Supernatural, the sheriff. And then we have a poster here signed by the voice of Scooby-Doo and Shaggy. Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. So those are the things that I got autographed this weekend. And so it was a fun time as always, and love going there. And of course, they throughout the whole year they reveal guests. It's kind of like a build up, And so they have the 25 days of guests for Christmas. So starting, I think, December 1st all the way to the 25th, they introduce one guest at a time. And so it kind of builds the excitement and stuff like that. So they have already, if I can go and find this video here, they've already announced next year. And so we'll go ahead and switch over to that. Pensacon returns in 2023, February 24th through the 26th. And here are some of the stars that they have lined up for next year.
We're going to make sure that they are healthy and nourished and ready to learn. Backpack Foundation is our charity. Today's auction kicks off at 3 p.m. right here in section 120, just above the store. Stop by. Everyone is welcome to bid. You can bid absolutely anyone.
Were you waiting for me? Go down and see the lady down here and see what she can do for you.
So yeah, if you're interested in Pensacon for next year, just go to pensacon.com and just read all about it. Right now, give them a couple of days to probably update their website for next year's information. But you can go there and look at the previous information from this year as well to see where everything's at. And so this last, next to last video was probably the funnest video that I got one of the guys to do. It's the guy, Scott Ennis, who voices Scooby-Doo, Shaggy, and Scrappy-Doo. And so I was actually in the video. Let me pull up the audio. Audio's already up. Okay. All right, so we'll play this. Okay.
Hanging out with Jamie.
Hang on. It's something went 2, 1.
Like, hey everybody, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy here hanging out with Jamie. Say hi, Jamie. Hey.
Hey, well, boy, Jamie's gonna take us cruising in the mystery machine. We're gonna go solve mysteries,
And then we're going to stop off at every Waffle House on the planet.
Like Zoinks, man.
Wow, dude, he can do the voice. Do it again, Jamie.
Like Zoinks.
We're going to sue him.
Yeah, roll, boy. Hey, can you do Scooby? Say, roll. You go, puppy power, Scrappy-Doo and Jamie too.
Scrappy-Doo.
Don't listen to him. Just listen to me and Uncle Scoob. Yeah, right. Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
So there you have it right there. So, yeah. Let me see if I can pull up the video of George Takei. Let's see. All right. Let's see here.
Oh, well, somehow. Let's visit to Pensacola.
Welcome.
All right. Sorry for this.
You've got a surprise for me. I said off mic right here. Oh my.
Here's the video. Thanks for joining, and we'll let you watch this until the end.
Thank you so much for that fantastic welcome. And are we having a party here or something? All these decorations and
all for you.
crystal chandeliers for me.
Yes.
Can I take it home with me? I am amazed. This is a fantastic showing, and the energy here and the enthusiasm is absolutely incredible. This is my first visit to Pensacola.
Welcome.
First time. I have a feeling I'll be coming back here. I am having so much fun all morning long. Can you imagine signing my name over and over and over? it's the people that come here to ask me for that. There have been some interesting conversations that I've had and some information that I've gained, because this is my first visit. I've never been here. I learned that I thought Pensacola was somehow related to Pepsi-Cola. I understand that it's a Native American name from way back, and it's sort of, I guess what white people thought, it sounds like Pepsi-Cola, so we'll make it Pepsi-Cola. It's Pensacola or something like that, and we wind up with something rhyming with Pepsi-Cola, a Coca-Cola. Which do you prefer, Coca or Pepsi? I am so grateful for all the energy that I feel here, because Star Trek was born 55 years ago last year. We celebrated the 55th anniversary of Star Trek. Looking around, I see some of you who are original fans. I can tell. It's the color of your hair or the lack of. And to the original fans, thank you very much. You have been supportive, faithful, undying. Don't you all die? And that's how we've come to celebrate the 55th anniversary of Star Trek. But in addition to that, there are, what I've found out is, I've done many conventions. The original fans are like triples. You know what I mean? You multiply and multiply and multiply. And now there's the next generation and the next generation after that. Your grandchildren are coming. And now they are the energizers. We like to sit back and take things easy, don't we? But thank you all very much. And particularly today, February 19th, is a profoundly significant date, because 80 years ago from today, February 19th, 1942, was the day that President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed an executive order. Oh, wow. I'm talking about something shocking and frightening. And sound effect man, please hold on. He signed an executive order sending all Japanese Americans on the West Coast into barbed wire prison camps. 2.5 months before that, Pearl Harbor, in the middle of the Pacific, was bombed by Japan in a surprise attack. It was a horrific bombing. Over 2,400 Americans were killed. Almost 20 naval vessels were sunk. 8 of them were major battleships. 300 aircrafts were destroyed. The terror of that bombing swept across the Pacific to the West Coast, then it rolled across the country all the way to the Atlantic coast, and this nation was swept up by war hysteria. The next morning, President Roosevelt declared war on Japan, and overnight, Japanese Americans, American citizens of Japanese ancestry, who had nothing to do with Pearl Harbor, were looked at with suspicion and fear and outright hatred, simply because we happened to look like the people that bombed Pearl Harbor. My parents were spat on and yelled at, called spies, saboteurs by people on the street. Our homes, businesses, cars were graffitied with ugly words of hate. And even men got swept up in it. They came down with a curfew. all Japanese Americans have to be home by 8 p.m. and stay home until 6 o'clock in the morning. We were imprisoned in our homes at night. And the next morning, if you went to the bank to make a deposit or a withdrawal, we discovered that our bank accounts were frozen. The government took our bank accounts. Some life savings were taken. And then the politicians started speaking. We had an attorney general in California, the top lawyer of the state of California, who wanted to run for governor. And he saw that he needed an issue to run for that office. And in California at that time, the most inflammatory issue was the lock up the Japs issue. And so this attorney general, the top lawyer of the state, made a speech in Sacramento, California, which happened to be my mother's birthplace. He said, "We have no reports of spying or sabotage or fifth column activities by Japanese Americans. And that is ominous. Ominous, because the Japanese are inscrutable. You can't tell what they're thinking. And so it would be prudent to lock them up before they do anything. Lock them up before they do anything." For this top attorney, the absence of evidence was the evidence. And that contributed to the hysteria, went all the way up to the presidency of the United States. And on February 19th, 1942, the president signed that executive order. It was a horrific reaction to the bombing of Pearl Harbor that only Japanese Americans experienced. But it is something that's important for all Americans to know, because it's our democracy. After the war, and I'm trying to recall the events, but after, immediately after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, young Japanese Americans, like all young Americans, rushed to their recruitment centers to volunteer to serve in the U.S. military. This act of patriotism was answered with a slap on the face. They were denied military service and categorized as enemy alien, which was crazy. They weren't an enemy, and they weren't aliens. They were Americans, born right here in the USA and imprisoned with the rest of us. And yet, despite that, a year into imprisonment, when the government realized that there is a wartime manpower shortage and they needed us, thousands of young Japanese Americans were drafted. They were enemy aliens that suddenly the government changed their mind. And so they were drafted and put into a segregated all-Japanese American unit. Segregated all-Japanese American unit. And they were sent to the battlefields of Europe, where they were used like cannon fodder. They were sent into the most dangerous battles, many of them that were stalemated for months on end. And they went in with fierce determination to show what kind of Americans they can be. The first wave of Japanese Americans would go in, and they fought heroically with incredible courage. They were gunned down. The next wave would go, and they would be gunned down. And then the next wave, and next wave. The Japanese American unit, the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, sustained the highest combat casualty rate of any other unit. And when the war ended, they returned to the United States as the most decorated unit in the entire military history of the United States. They were welcomed back on the White House lawn by President Harry Truman, who said, "You fought not only the enemy, but prejudice, and you won." This is an amazing story. Americanism isn't your race or color. It is what you have in your heart. On the battlefield, blood stained the battlefields of Europe. The color was the same. The color of the blood was the same. And what was in their heart was the same. But for Japanese Americans, it was a special color. That determination to prove who we are as Americans. As I was growing up, I was 5 years old at the time that I was in prison, but as a teenager, later on, my father told me about the United States government. He said, the ideals of a people's democracy are noble ideals. Rule under the law, equal justice, due process. These are noble ideas, but they're just words on paper or parchment. The meaning of that, those words, have to be put there by the people, the people's government. And so he told us, my brother and me, and my sister, but I think he was actually a sexist because he told my brother and me, and he didn't emphasize it for my sister. He said, we've got to participate in a participatory democracy. We've got to be active in it. And that's the way we give meaning to those noble words. And so I became active in student government. I was elected in middle school. I was elected student body president. And in high school, I was senior board president. And my father took me to volunteer in a lot of political campaigns. My first campaign was Adlai Stevenson for President campaign headquarters. Yeah, you people with white hair or no hair recognize Adlai Stevenson. He didn't win. He ran against General Eisenhower, and when you got that all that heroism, you win. But I was involved in campaigns for the U.S. Senate in California, the governor of the state of California, mayor. So I became active in the political process. And through that, I began to understand what my father meant by a participatory democracy. And with our participation, things started to change. In the 1970s, a movement began to get an apology and redress for that unjust imprisonment. And the amazing thing by that time was we had Japanese Americans in the halls of Congress, something unthinkable when we were behind those barbed wire fences. We had 3 Japanese Americans in the House of Representatives and 2 senators in the Senate. Both were veterans of the 442nd. Senator Danny Inouye, one of the longest serving senators who passed a few years ago, had a loose right sleeve. He lost his right arm on a battlefield in Italy. Senator Spark Matsunaga was also a veteran of the 442nd. He was intact. But that, together with the Japanese American community, with leadership from the elected officials, Congress created a congressional commission to gather information on the internment. And in 1981, I testified at that congressional commission. And I told him about my childhood, how my father taught me about democracy, and how active I've been in this government. And I said that there needs to be an apology and recognition of that period of Japanese-American history. There needs to be recognition to strengthen the integrity of America. And so I talk to you as Americans. All Americans have to be actively engaged in the democratic process to give meaning to the noble ideals of our democracy.
Yes.
And the commission found that the internment of Japanese Americans was based on 3 factors. 1, war hysteria. 2, race prejudice. And 3, failure of political leadership. That report went to the president. And in 1988, President Ronald Reagan, on behalf of the people of America, apologized for that grave error, as he put it. And he signed the Civil Liberties Act. America can respond. Sometimes it takes a long time for its mistake to be recognized, but it will be recognized. And so I wrote a graphic memoir, which is another way of saying a comic book. It's told in pictures, but I told the story of my childhood, and we have it here on my table. And for those people who bought it, I put down the date February 19, 2022, 80th anniversary of our day of remembrance. And so thank you for those of you who bought the book, and thank you for either knowing the story or hopefully learning from that story so that our democracy becomes a stronger, truer, and truly a shining democracy. And so with that, enough of history. Let's enjoy the history, 55-year history of Star Trek.